Hi, I'm Alan Smith. California is about a lot more than surfer dudes and movie stars. It's a state full of garden fresh ideas and inspirations. I'll show you some right after this. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. In today's show, we're going to take a look at some interesting tidbits that I've picked up along the way with my travels in California. It promises to be a colorful show with a wide range of topics, from elaborately designed vineyards to celebrations of color from seeds. We'll even see an outstanding plant produced commercially, 100% by Californians, and get a tasty recipe using this fresh from the garden tree. So what are we waiting for? Let's head out to California right after this. When I think of California, I think of relaxing afternoons, enjoying a refreshing glass of wine, while sitting back and absorbing the sights and sounds of nature. You know, California is full of amazing wineries, and during a visit, we had an opportunity to see a new vineyard about 20 miles south of the Silicon Valley. It's a winery where garden design took center stage early in its development. Cheryl Dursey of Clos, LaChance, and landscape architect Michael Tebb pick up the story.
We built the winery just about 2 years ago. We wanted the building to look like it had been here for 100 years. So we did a lot of landscaping with that in mind. We wanted the gardens to look filled in. We wanted the stone to look a little weathered. And we wanted the trees to have a little bit of growth to them.
Part of the challenges on the plantings, this is a hot, windy site. And these plants really needed to be tough. You know, the Mediterranean plant palette works really well with that.
We want our customers to feel like they are walking into another world. We want them to have old world Europe in mind as they're coming to our winery.
We've got Pride of Madeira, which is the fantastic blue purple. We've chosen the blue hibiscus, which is just an electric blue purple. Some of the roses, which we've gone into the pale pinks.
The lavender aroma almost just completely permeates this entire property. Lavender is really one of the main plants I think that Michael used in his design, and for a good purpose. Not only the aromas, but just the overall feeling of the winery is an old world European winery, and that's definitely an old world European plant.
I have to say, a plant that never fails to inspire me when I visit the West is lavender. Winemaking and garden design come together beautifully at Clos, LaChance, but there are more gorgeous gardens ahead. Up next, we'll visit the private garden of a very public seed company. Stay with us. Today, we're enjoying the beauty and bounty California has to offer. This state has always stimulated my imagination because of its rich agricultural roots and garden heritage. You can find everything from farms to plant breeders here. And over the years, so many of them have opened up their doors to us, like Renee Shepard. Renee is the owner of Renee's Garden, a seed company, and she uses her backyard as an area to try out all the seeds she sells. Renee, the garden looks beautiful.
Well, thank you. I've picked some flowers to show you.
Gosh, look at them. These are gorgeous.
Well, I just wanted to show you some of the things you can grow from seed. You know, a lot of these cutting and old-fashioned flowers come best from seed, and that's the way to grow them.
You know, there really are a lot of annuals out there to choose from beyond just marigolds and petunias.
Well, absolutely, and if there's a family that you like I happen to love sunflowers, you can grow great big tall Gonzilla ones. That's
Right.
a variety we have, grows 14 feet tall.
Really?
Or 2.5 foot tall music box, which are wonderful for flower borders, or cinnamon colored ones, or bicolored ones, or ones that have perfectly lemon yellow teardrop shaped leaves, all kinds of varieties.
I'm knocked out by your selection of morning glories.
Oh, well, morning glories are something that were very popular 50, 60 years ago, and I think are just starting to come back into favor.
You know, Renee, when I plant morning glories, I found that I get the best results when I soak the seed overnight before I plant them.
I've heard that. A lot of good gardeners do that. Either that or take a file and just scratch the seed with it a little bit.
Well, the outer covering of the seed is so hard, you almost need to give it a little help.
I especially did that with this early call morning glory, which is from Japan and has big, very large, soft lavender and rose and pale pink flowers. That portrait that's on our seed packet is actually painted from pictures we take of them in our garden. Here's another great morning glory, a real old heirloom, Scarlet O'Hara.
Well, there's a name everybody knows.
Absolutely, and it's as vivid as she was. Our picture packet is actually painted from the flower. I grow everything here, and then we either send it up to our artist who's just a city away or take pictures, so everything is a portrait of the real flower.
I see. I love the illustrations. Grow something different and perhaps something even old-fashioned.
Old-fashioned, but still things that are easy to grow.
Well, you're doing a great job. Just keep up the good work.
Well, thank you. It's nice having you in my garden, too.
Well, thanks. It's a pleasure. Not so long ago, it was difficult to come across great old-fashioned seed varieties. But today, people like Renee are realizing that we gardeners are always interested in these proven performers of the past. Back when my grandmother gardened, saving seeds and exchanging them with neighbors and friends was an important way to introduce new plant varieties into your garden. Today, with so many seeds available to us from seed racks and catalogs, it may seem a bit pointless to save. But if you garden, you know seed can get expensive, so why not save a little money? If you take a packet of petunia seed as an example, at an average cost of say $2 a pack, that price per pound for petunia seed would be around $14,000. These basket flowers were spectacular just a few weeks ago. Since the seed is difficult to find, I save as many as I can. After the flowers fade and the seed pods dry like this, I break them off and sort out the seed. Whether it's basket flower or any other flower, I like to take the seed heads and place them on newspaper in a tray. As they dry, the seed begin to fall, and then I store them in these little film canisters and label them for planting in the spring. I save seed from a wide range of my old garden standbys, everything that's not a hybrid. Things such as my Formosa lily, verbena on a stick, and even flowering tobacco. One of the nice things about saving seed is that you may preserve an heirloom strain that's no longer commercially available. So by spending a little time in the garden gathering seed, we may keep some of our favorite garden flowers from being lost forever. I find that no matter where I travel, I like to collect ideas to use in my garden. And coming up, I'll share some of the ways I've been inspired by my travels in California. That's next, so don't go away. Because the weather can be so unpredictable, the flowers we plant in our gardens have to be tough and resilient. Creating new varieties with these qualities in mind is exactly what's going on here in Germany. For instance, these are ivy geraniums, and they represent some of the best in breeding. Gary Falkenstein tells us more.
Besides the two primary trial sites here in Europe, northern Germany for cold and wet, and southern France where we get a much warmer climate and a lot more sun, we have three primary sites in North America, in New Jersey, Colorado, and in British Columbia, giving us again three cross sections of trials.
Why do you think the ivy geranium will become more popular in the United States?
Well, I think for one part, the cascades and blizzards are very heat tolerant, and they're carefree, and if they're planted in a container, which container gardening is catching on so much now in the United States and in Europe, they're really virtually maintenance free, and they'll give you more color in about any plant there is.
Welcome back. I'm Alan Smith. You know, I'm always looking for new design ideas, interesting plants, and solutions to problems in the garden. And when I take a trip out west, I'm almost always guaranteed that I'm going to come home with lots of ideas and inspirations that I can apply in my own garden. Take, for example, a visit to Bonfante Gardens theme park. Seeing interesting trees and topiary here inspired me to add a little whimsy to my garden. You've got to love this chicken topiary that I made from moss and wire. I came away from the Garlic Festival in Gilroy with more than just fond memories of a fun afternoon celebrating the many uses of this plant. This event gave me some good ideas on ways to use garlic in the kitchen. And all the plants out in California, going to greenhouses and nurseries, touring private gardens, and seeing the way cities use plants inspires me to get creative in my own garden designs. You know, nature herself can be a great teacher and a source of inspiration. During one visit, the ocean helped me to learn about an organic way to feed the plants in my garden. Plants are truly amazing organisms. You don't have to be into gardening to appreciate what they do for us. They help us in so many obvious ways. They provide the air we breathe, fruits and vegetables to eat, and beautiful things to look at. They can also help themselves. A good example of this is what seaweed in a foliar spray can do for plants in the garden. This solution is made of kelp, a form of seaweed harvested directly out of the ocean. Now, we've learned to use kelp in this way by observing how rapidly it grows. It has to survive in such a harsh environment. It's constantly being thrown around by the tide and eaten by fish. It can grow a foot a day, and the same hormones that prompt this rapid growth in the kelp can have a more subtle but similar effect when sprayed on plants in our gardens. When sprayed directly onto the foliage, it seems to promote faster, stronger stem and leaf growth. For instance, I sprayed these eggplants just last week, and they've already responded. Just look at the size of some of these leaves. This spray also seems to help plants set flowers and fruit earlier. It doesn't stop here. When applied to the soil at the base of a plant, the same hormones can actually increase root growth. This also seems to help reduce transplantation shock for young seedlings like these, as well as bare rootstock. If you're having difficulty getting plants established in your garden, you might give them a little jolt of spring tonic from the sea. You know, when you think about the food we eat, it really makes sense to use an all-natural spray like this because it won't harm us or the environment. Speaking of food, I'm certainly inspired by all the great meals I've had while spending time in California. Like when I visited the Carmel Tomato Festival. There are tomato-based recipes to sample at every turn. And it even inspired me to plant some of these amazing heirloom varieties of seeds featured at the festival in my garden. I remember the first tomato fest I came to, which was out in the middle of a cornfield here in Carmel Valley. It was an absolutely wonderful happening, and I can see it's grown into a much larger happening now. What's different about this tomato festival than the one 5 years and 10 years before that?
Well, I think we had about 250 people at that event, and that was large for us at that time. And it was the first year I think we went public, where we started opening it up to the public and turning it into a charity event. We now have 2,000 people, and they're coming from all over the country. And it's not just a local event anymore, but it's definitely still a community event. The primary reason that I like to support heirloom seeds is to protect these precious varieties from disappearing.
Sure.
Because hybrids have some very good tomatoes, but you're not going to be able to go ahead and carry on that hybrid by yourself. So when people come to my tomato tasting and they fall in love with a tomato, they can take it home and it can be in their family for generations.
So if someone wants some of the seed you've selected, how can they go about getting them?
It's easier than ever now because we have the internet. All right, so my complete selection of about 400 varieties is on the internet at tomatofest.com. And there are other people doing the same thing. The people who had catalogs for seed are now bringing it to the internet. So I get orders from all over the place and out of the country. And now people can order all year round.
Marvelous. I really enjoy answering your questions, and lately I've had a lot of questions about roses. One viewer from Atlanta wrote me and said, you know, my roses are covered up with black spot and powdery mildew. What do I do? Now, if you're having a problem in your garden, there are two approaches you should take in bringing the problem under control. The first is prevention, removing and disposing of infected plants and leaves by burning them or putting them in the garbage will cut down on the spread. Don't put leaves like these in your compost because you'll just harbor spores for another round of infection next season. Now, the second line of defense is to take action by spraying. Before using conventional fungicide, try using some safer alternatives. I typically use a sulfur-based product. Since it's not a synthetic fungicide, I don't have to worry about it damaging the environment. Okay, let's say that this organic approach doesn't work. Well, then it may be time to bring out the big guns, and that's using a conventional fungicide. If you do that, use it responsibly. I only use them as a last resort, and I spray in a very isolated area. And what I do is I cut the rose bush back really hard, and then I spray it from top to bottom, and even the soil around it with the fungicide. After that, I feed the rose bush generously, and then just wait for new growth and flowers to emerge. Now, if you have questions or comments, you can always check out my website. That's pallensmith.com. Now let's get to the heart of this plant. It's the artichoke. Right after the break, and an award-winning chef shares his recipe for an artichoke marinade, so don't go away. You know, the best place to learn how to prepare a food is from the area where it's grown. So let's go over to Carmel, to the Rio Grill, because they know how to treat an artichoke right. First, the tips are trimmed, but the stalk is left because this is very tasty. Then they're boiled for about 25 to 30 minutes in water, white wine, and lemon. This gives them a special flavor, and it also helps preserve the color. Once they're cooked, they're left to cool before the choke, or this thistly center, is removed. This is actually the immature flower. Now for the tasty part. The artichokes are drizzled with a marinade made from fresh oregano, thyme, and garlic, and balsamic vinegar and olive oil, and of course a little salt and cracked black pepper before each one is wrapped in foil. Finally, they're placed on hot coals in the firebox, but only for 5 to 7 minutes. Once they're cooked and before they cool, these little guys are coated one last time with the leftover marinade. You know, there's nothing like sunflowers to remind me of sunny California. Aren't these spectacular? They're the last of the season, and I just think they're some of the best I've ever grown. You know, California is full of so many great ideas on so many levels, like we saw at Clos LaChance Winery. The many flowers Renee Shepard shared with us are not only inspiring, but are easy to grow in gardens all across our country. And that delicious recipe using a truly California produce, the artichoke, is sure to be a hit at dinner tables from coast to coast.
If you want beautiful trees, shrubs, and flowers, but your last water bill gave you sticker shock, don't punish your plants. Grow with Nutrimoist crystals, a biodegradable crystal that helps to hold moisture and nutrients closer to your plant's roots. Mix these granules into potting soil or flower beds. Add water, and the granules enlarge, locking moisture into the plant's root zone, which ultimately means less watering for you and more time and money on your hands. Want a more beautiful garden with less work? Learn more about Nutrimoist crystals at nutrimoist.com.
Well, that's it for today's show. I hope you've enjoyed our time together as much as I have. Just remember that everything in today's show is recapped on my website. So if you missed something, just go to pallensmith.com. Until next time, have a little fun in the garden and grow something. From the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.